Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 20th Finance and Audit Committee meeting. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. I don't see that we have anyone attending electronically at this point. Today's Finance and Audit Committee meeting will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question on a matter that was considered by the committee today, please sign your name and the agenda item on the sign-up sheet to the double on the table to the double doors to my left. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states that questions will only be taken on staff reports and any other business items. Looking at the nature of the participants from the public here today, I don't think I need to read the warning about public behavior and no cheering and jeering, so we'll skip that. First item on the agenda, of course, is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry, we have a couple, please.
Yes, good morning, Your Worship. For late items this morning, we have agenda item 7A, Community Resilience Investment Program, Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Program, the addition of a report titled Community Resilience Investments Program. For agenda item 7E, we have the addition of the report titled Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, CEPF, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning Funding Stream. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Eastmere, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have no minutes to adopt. On to presentations, and the first is the 2027-2031 Draft Financial Plan. Ms. Fulla, our Director of Finance, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Go slow for us. There's an awful lot in here. Please.
Now I'm feeling pressure. So, Council adopted the 2026-2030 financial plan last week, and work is already underway on our next financial plan. This work actually began in February as staff started reviewing the 10-year project plan. The project plan is updated annually to reflect revised cost estimates, changes to scope and timing, as well as emerging issues and priorities. Today is an opportunity for the committee to provide feedback to help guide the direction of the draft project plan before we bring it back in the fall. I'll be providing a short financial overview, followed by project information from IT, Engineering and Public Works, Facilities, and Parks, Recreation, and Culture. Staff can answer questions on projects as the slides are presented, and we will be looking for feedback from the committee at the end of the presentation. The current financial plan includes nearly $359 million in projects planned from 2027 through 2030. Of this amount, $112.7 million, or approximately 31%, is allocated to facility infrastructure. This includes $66.1 million for the Public Works Yard Update Project and $12.4 million at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. An additional $59 million, or about 16% of the plan, is allocated to water infrastructure. Approximately 72% of the projects are focused on the renewal of existing infrastructure to maintain current service levels. This includes a wide range of investments from water, sewer, and storm mains to the renewal of fire apparatus, trails, and playgrounds. About 12% of the projects were related to development cost charge projects. This includes those proposed in the new DCC bylaw, which received first 3 readings. A portion of these projects are funded through developer contributions in accordance with the city's development cost charge program to support growth. About 10% of projects represent new or upgraded infrastructure. This includes improvements to our sports fields, active transportation amenities, and utility infrastructure. Approximately 65% of the funding for the plan comes from reserves. The table and chart not only break down the funding, but also show where the dollars come from across the different funding sources. External borrowing at $77.4 million is the largest single source of funding. This includes the approved borrowing for the Public Work Yard Update Project, as well as anticipated borrowing for the portion of the VICC renewal that falls within the current financial plan. Whoops, go back one. The General Asset Management Reserve at $72.8 million is the next largest source of funding. This reserve is funded by property taxes. Projected contributions from property taxes to this reserve between 2027 and 2030 totals $75.5 million. Over that same period, a total of $77.3 million is budgeted to be spent from reserves. This includes the project funding shown on this slide, as well as the debt servicing for Fire Station Number 1, which we fund from the General Asset Management Reserve. General revenue project funding is budgeted at $41.9 million. This represents a 5% increase over base project funding each year, is aligned with our 20-year investment plan that we presented back in 2023, and accounts for approximately 12% of total project funding. The other reserve that's also funded from property taxes is the Climate Action Reserve Fund. A number of reserves are funded by user fees or a combination of user fees and revenue, such as our Facility Development Reserve, General Parking, the Sewer and Water Asset Management Reserves, and the Sewer and Water Operating Reserves. The Equipment Depreciation Fund and those reserves where you see it says funded by internal charges, they also include a property tax component. As previously mentioned, general revenue funding for 2027 is based on a 5% increase over 2026. Funding is projected to reach $11.8 million by 2031. I wanted to touch briefly on the Community Works Reserve, for which the city entered into a new agreement in July of 2024. In recent years, this reserve has been used to support the construction of new city infrastructure as well as the renewal of existing assets. In the current financial plan, funding from this reserve has been allocated to support a wide range of initiatives, including the Loudon Park improvements, replacement of the Bevan Complex roof, redevelopment of the Sid Clark Sports Field, street improvements associated with the Country Club Norwell Drive area, and stadium district amenity buildings, just to name a few examples. Looking ahead to the next financial plan, staff anticipate continuing to use the Community Works Reserve to fund projects that meet both the program's requirements and support a mixture of new infrastructure as well as the renewal of existing infrastructure. Now, before the departments get into their project highlights, I did want to briefly touch on several larger capital projects that are either not currently included in the project plan or for which the plan does not yet include full funding to complete the project. These projects are at various stages of development. Now, the current financial plan does include funding to advance the RCMP detachment project, as well as funding for the conceptual design of the South End Community Center. As the timing and funding strategies for these projects are confirmed, they will be brought forward for approval and incorporation into future financial plans. Now, before I turn it over to Mr. Blackwood to speak to the IT and GIS projects, I would like to note that the budgets shown on the following slides may differ from what you see in the financial plan this fall. Costs will continue to be updated as staff further refine the project scope and timing, as well as update costs to current market conditions.
Don't worry, I could see him.
Make sure I showed up. Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Thank you.
Good morning, welcome.
So my name is Derek Blackwood. I'm the manager of the IT Client and Technical Services. I'm standing in for our Director of IT, Carrying, today to speak on behalf of the IT and GIS department. So yes, today I'm going to talk through some of the project highlights for the 2026 year. Starting with the first one that we're doing is NERP, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning application. It's been an application to replace our aging application of SAP. It's all our financial things. The project is still moving forward this year. We're still working on the final launch day. Full implementation is expected in Q4 of this year. The next one that we have in this year as well is our nanaimo.ca public website redesign. It's really our primary communication tool for the public. We're looking to increase its effectiveness and just make sure it's the visual redesign to, well, it says enhance navigation and accessibility. This one is the design is complete, implementation to start in Q3. To continue on, we are still working with the permit and improvements. So this is about some of our e-apply applications. We're also looking at a web-based application tracking dashboard to help support the process of the applications. Another one that we have is our Microsoft 365 migration. This year we have completed a full organization discovery, gone through all the departments, collected how they're using their records, how we're going to help support it. The report that we've received so far does provide a current and future state summary, a roadmap of how to move us forward, and some best practices and pillars of success to make sure this is completed and effective. And
If I can just ask on the permanent approvals, improvements, enhancing customer and staff experience, is it possible to even give an estimate of what reduction in terms of time or whatever would result from that? I realize these things are pretty hard to speculate about, but
I apologize, I don't have as much detail as Carrie would probably have with that. I know that we are working through the different folder types of the permits, adopting those as we can. The dashboard is something that we have recently started working on and developing, and I believe it is expected for the end of this year as well. Apologize, I can certainly follow up afterwards with better timelines.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So moving on to our GIS, Applications and Services Department. So we are still continuing with our CAMS, which is the Corporate Asset Management System. We will be continuing through Fleet Services and onboarding Water Resources Department by the end of this year as well. In addition with GIS, we are doing some pictography, some ortho photos of the city. So we have already completed the overview of the city of Nanaimo, and there will be an additional project which will be to do the townsite cemetery to help document the grave markers. Both these are expected to be available at the end of Q3. Right. So moving into some of the technology infrastructure initiatives. So we are still working through the VICC Phase 3 digital displays. There's some new TVs and things in the lobbies around here, and this is also expected to be completed between June and July of this year as well too. We are still obviously going through a lot of the network and workstation infrastructure replacements. This is really just about the ongoing infrastructure required to keep the operations of the city in place. We do have some major ones that will be happening at the end of this year, including our data storage and our virtual server host replacements. Moving into the 27 and 2028 projects. So it will be a continuation of our Microsoft 365 migration. The intention is over these couple of years will be to help migrate the departments to the Microsoft 365 platform and really make that the platform where the day-to-day work happens. I'll be looking to add some structure, governance, try and keep it simple, and really start onboarding that to make it more accessible for any of the field or remote workers. Also, as a continuation of the permit and approval improvements, so we are looking to pilot an implementation of an AI-assisted application check service. This will be something to help the public make sure that their submissions to the city are more complete before they are actually reviewed by city staff. Following through with CAMS, we are looking to onboard more departments for this as well too. It'll be the solid waste, facilities, and the parks departments over the next 2 years. And of course, with the NERP or the ERP improvement, we'll be looking to add additional functionality, including new services such as barcode scanning for our stores and in any department that has inventory. And lastly, that I'll just kind of speak to is about the emerging issues. We are still seeing a dynamically evolving technology landscape, a lot of AI seeing out here, whether for good or as an accelerated cybersecurity threat. So what we are looking to do is make sure that we have a technology roadmap in the budget to help us just strategize, protect our organization, make sure that yeah, we're planned and prepared, including upskilling, training staff, and yeah, making sure we still have some reliance on contractors and domain expertise as well. That does conclude my slides. If there's any questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Any questions? Councillor Perino.
Just a very quick question, Your Worship. Thank you, through you. I just wanted to ask you about the 2027-2028 projects, and you've got the permit and approval improvements for $350,000. Is that correct? Right.
That's correct.
And to pilot full implementation of the AI-assisted application check services, which I'm thrilled to see anything to help people to get their applications in properly. Are you anticipating that it will take the full 2 years?
No, I think it's about the discovery first. So we're still pretty new in the concept of it. So there is a lot of the process of finding a tool, finding the right one, seeing the implementation. I would say that it would take 2 years to fully develop it and make sure that it's in place.
Okay.
Yes.
But it could be working as early as next year, is that right?
I would suggest that it does have to be kind of piloted to make sure we start small, similar to what we're doing with a lot of the folder types for the different applications. I'm not sure if it would be a full launch for every process, something that we would still have to provide a better clarification on as we define the project a little bit more next year.
I'm just so pleased to see it, because anything we can do to get people on the right path and moving forward, so thank you so much.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
yeah, and I'm happy to follow up with the director when he's back to provide a better timeline.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, to Mr. Blackwood. Thanks for being here this morning. I have a very general question, and I'm not sure if you can provide a specific answer, but we're hearing so much these days about the use of AI and its benefits and its dangers. I'm wondering if you can give, or maybe others on staff can give, a general sense of how much we're using AI in our systems and for what purposes. And maybe, Your Worship, this is something which might be better suited to a GPC meeting, but it's something that certainly interests me.
Of course, yes. Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Thorpe. To speak on a high level, we have started an acceptable use of AI technology policy with the City of Nanaimo. We are starting within the Microsoft platform and adopting the Microsoft Copilot. So a lot of that is what they call the generative AI, where it requires staff or input to be able to generate answers out of it. We haven't moved into what's called the agentic AI, where that's really, it's making its own decisions based on information it has access to. So I would say we're seeing more of it in the tools and services that we actually do procure or purchase. Those are almost guaranteed to be in every product. You probably see that all over the media news as well. So it's not a full adoption yet. I think we are trying to take this a bit cautious, make sure we're using it for the right things with the right intention, and not just kind of release it to the wild.
Thank you. So it's more at this point, the generative form of AI which we're using.
Correct. I would say the acceptable use of AI technology policy is more focused on that generative AI.
Very valuable tool. Thanks very much.
Of course. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Your Worship, Council. Just before Mr. Stewart walks Council through the slides, I just thought I'd set a bit of context. So I think, as Council is aware, most of the engineering and public works projects are asset management related, or projects that are mostly about renewing existing infrastructure. To make sure the city gets the most value out of this opportunity or the upgrade, we make sure that we look at all the adjacent infrastructure and any potential opportunities. For example, enhancing the road, instead of just restoring what was there, we'll put back something a little bit better potentially. So staff puts a lot of effort into balancing the risks, jumping on opportunities that are available, putting together a project package, and presenting that as part of the budget. So what you'll see are a lot of these what we call concurrent projects. So they're projects of more than just a water main replacement. It's typically some utilities, a road enhancement, so on and so forth. So just setting that context. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Stewart to walk Council through the slides.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rosen. So just going to do a bit of a recap on what's going on this year and then go into next year. So there's a couple projects that started construction last year, currently under construction this year, and are planning to be completed this summer. One of those is the one on Hammond Bay that we've heard a lot about the construction delays and traffic from, and then 3rd Street is also under construction right now and should be completed this summer. Also on the agenda for this year, we have the East Wellington Road and Madsen Road and East Wellington intersections. Our plan right now is to go out to procurement later this fall and start construction in the winter. Of course, we all know a lot about the Community Works Yard project. That one is well underway now, and the progress is happening quite rapidly, and if all goes well, construction could start as early as this fall. There's been a couple projects this year that have been delayed. One of them was Bowen Road upgrade, so we had a plan to repave a section of Bowen Road in front of Bevan Park, as well as add some active transportation amenities. The reason why this is delayed is we applied for a grant, and a good chunk of the project is funded by that grant. And as of this morning, checking, it's still under review. So we're waiting to hear back from the federal government. It's been over a year, and then if we are not successful, this project will be added to the conversations this fall to see what council wants to do with it. Another project that was delayed, so this was one of our sewer projects, and we had put it out to market, and the cost that we got back to complete the project was also almost double our budget. And we did not have the sewer DCC reserves to add the budget to the project. So this is kind of one of these emerging issues with DCC reserves that we have challenges with. We've had a lot of growth of the city over the last few years, and their reserves are not as healthy as they should be to support these projects. So you'll see the theme of this type of challenge through the presentation, and there's going to be a follow-up conversation with council in June to talk more about that.
Councillor Manley has a question.
Yeah, just a quick question about this. This is the sewer line that's running through the ALR land, close to Millstone River. Is there going to be a possibility of putting a cycle route over top of that pipe, or is that looking at Mr. Rose with the ALC? Is that I understand it's a difficult one with the ALC, just getting the pipe through there.
So through the chair to Councillor Manley, one of the conditions of the ALC approval was that we do not put a path on top of the sewer. They were not particularly amenable to transportation infrastructure in ALR land.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's a nice little spot to get through to be able to connect. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Moving forward, we have a standard slide that we always show some of the background studies and programs that we have. These are the things that kind of work in the background to kind of keep our knowledge of the system, so we know which projects are the ones that deserve the attention, a lot of condition assessment and that type of thing. And then also our smaller programs around active school travel and traffic calming and those type of things. Just a slide showing the transportation infrastructure, and kind of as to Mr. Rosen's comment, the vast majority of the transportation funding in the capital plan is to keep our existing infrastructure in good working order, and then a healthy amount to add sidewalks and cycling facilities and that type of thing to our system over the next several years. Hatton Bay Road force main cost share we're doing with the regional district. This one is in the planning stages right now, with construction potentially looking to start this fall and into next year. Quite a bit of our utility infrastructure funding is going to be tied up with this for the next few years. So like as Mr. Rosen said, we're partnering with them, make sure we don't go back several times. There's going to be a couple of touch points with council over the next little bit. On Monday, the RDN is going to be coming to council to talk about the traffic management strategy that has been developed for the project. And then over the summer, the team's going to be having some conversations with some of the neighborhood groups around what the surface will look like when we put it back, what kind of infrastructure we put after we rip up the road, put back. And then once we have that information from the public, we'll come to council and have that conversation with council about what we can do on the Hammond Bay corridor. Mr. Squire was here last week talking about our water supply plan. So this is one of the projects he has, their group has in the budget for the next few years to build resilience in the south of town.
What's the difference in volume in terms of how much it'll contain? Any idea?
I don't have that off the top of my head, I'm sorry. I can check in with Mr. Squire and get back to you on it. Yeah. Development cost shares. So kind of following up on a conversation last week about frontage works and services, there's projects that happen that there's an opportunity if we cost share with the developers to kind of make a more complete product. So an example is the intersection you see there, that would be Cascare Drive in Alta Vista. you know, the developer's responsible for what's in front of their development, but if we partner with them, we could have a more complete intersection design. Or the 900 block of Howard, you know, there's 2 sections that they have to build sidewalk on, and there's a gap between, so if we add some funding, we can make that connection and make a more complete network for the neighborhood. So these are a couple that we've identified. They're in the process right now. We put money in, they requested money for the capital plan for the next couple of years to work with them on these.
So when it says restriping plus bike facilities, I get what restriping is. What's bike facilities mean?
On the Jordan Avenue, there's, yeah, just like a rework of the line work on the road and extending that bike facility in that corner to make sure that it actually connects to something. The Country Club Normal Drive project. So Mr. Scheer was at the advisory committee on accessibility and inclusiveness on last week, and we had some really good feedback from that committee about the project, and have been invited back once the design is a bit further along to have some more conversations with them. So that was a very positive outlook. We've also done some public consultation over the spring and have that information that we're going to integrate into design. And we've also had conversations with many of the business owners along that frontage, and especially the ones that are most heavily impacted, and come to an agreement on how we will work with them to make the corridor something that works for them and also works for the city needs. The next phase of Commercial Street is planned for 2028, and that will be the section just outside of Diana Kroll Plaza, and includes replacing the membrane between on top of the parking garage, because it's not so waterproof anymore, and it's causing some damage to our structures underneath, so that needs to be done in the short term. We plan to start the community consultation this summer and into the fall, and then detailed design work next year onto what that looks like, so council will hear more about that as that project moves forward.
Makes reference to the membrane only, so there's no consideration in that budget for perhaps doing something a little more exciting with the plaza itself. Is that fair?
So there's the majority of the budget in the current capital plan is around that asset management piece, but there is some money in there that's tagged to making it a better space. I think once we do the community consultation and have some conversations with council, we'll have a better idea of what that wants to look like and what the appropriate budget for that will be. So,
I mean, I know there's concerns of many of the folks downtown about quote-unquote attracting people, and not necessarily people that the business community wants to see downtown. But having said that, it's a pretty flat, cold space. Councillor Eastman, please.
Thank you. Through you, I thought that there had already been engagement, community engagement on a potential design for Diana Kroll Plaza. Had that not already been done, and we're doing that again just because it's been a while, or?
Through the chair to Councillor Eastmere. So there's been a number of community engagements over the years around Diana Kroll Plaza. It's been a really challenging space to reimagine, I guess. And so the last time we engaged on it, we really focused on the front half, kind of from the library entrance out towards Commercial Street. And the membrane covers the entire blue area that you see on the screen. So there's some spaces that, you know, we haven't really had that conversation with the public and with the downtown businesses around what it could look like and that type of thing. So yeah, there's definitely been several conversations. We're going to hold to some of those principles. There's been kind of some vision exercises that will continue, but it's circling back. And you are correct, it's been several years, so we want to make sure that it still fits.
And I remember there being some type of like preliminary design that was going to come to us, and then sort of never really did. Like, did that design ever get completed, or did that completely get put on hold?
So the design got to kind of like a 30-50% stage where we kind of got the pieces kind of laid out, but then focus turn to construction on Commercial Street. And so we paused that thinking it's going to be a couple of years before construction hits. And what we find is when you start projects like that, you lose momentum and stuff like that. So we thought we would start it up again when we knew we were close to the construction timeline, and then get people excited about it again, and then kind of move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Another section of the Millstone Trunk Sewer, so this is the next section just north of the one that we were planning on doing this year, and it was up for construction in 2028, but again, that tentative is there is all around that sewer DCC funding that we need to have a conversation about. And now further on into some of the projects that are a bit further out in the plan that are just kind of starting to develop the concepts for it. So this is one that's been on the kind of the master plan list for quite a while, but now it's starting to appear in the capital plan, and this is that last connection on the off-Bowen Bikeway to create that connection between VIU and the ENN Trail. So once the other projects in the plan are constructed, this will be that last one. And then Dufferin Corridors, so there's a lot of development happening in this corridor over the next several years, and this is a chance to, along with the asset renewal, take a look at what was done in the hospital area plan and kind of realize that vision over the next several years. Wikisaya and Fourth Storm projects, this is one where the condition and capacity of those storm sewers are just, they're starting to become problematic, and so we have plans to replace them in 2028 and 2029. And then out a bit further in the plan in 2030, the concept's just starting to crystallize for a corridor plan for the Uplands Drive corridor between Hammond Bay to Dover Road. And then after the Diana Krall Plaza phase of Commercial Street, the next phase after that will be Terminal Avenue to Diana Krall Plaza in 2030, and then a future phase out in 2032 for the Victoria Crescent side of that. And then
Is that, I appreciate there were great concerns expressed by the downtown business folks, the impact on their business, but is that, how shall I say, is this more of a response to the budget or a response to the public feelings about when we do this? I mean, the Commercial Street upgrades, the one that's been done, have been very well received and very positive public response, and I'm just wondering, and I'm looking to Mr. Lindsay as well when I ask this, is this, I'll hesitate to use the phrase budget or political or some combination thereof?
Thank you, Worship. I think it's a good point, but I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. And if you recall, I think late in 2024, Council debated the next phases, and we had originally planned to be building this next phase of commercial. I think it was this year we were on target to do, and Council pulled it from the budget for financial reasons in late 2024. So we've kind of had to reconfigure the budget and try to manage it within all of the other projects. A lot of factors. The construction fatigue is one, the budget is other, but trying to make sure we align it with other projects is important. So the membrane work that needs to be done on the parkade is important. And going back to Council Eastmere's questions, is really about, we were getting ready to do the front part, I would call it, of the plaza as it gets to Commercial Street, but we realized with the membrane there, it didn't make sense to do just that part, and we had to kind of align those projects. So it's a combination of all of those things, I think.
Thank you.
And then finally, with the growth we're seeing in the South End and the Southgate area and the potential for a South End Rec Center, there's concept development and planning underway for some mobility improvements in the area and the possible Cranberry Connector. Just one note on this slide, it has a bit of a typo. It says construction will start in 2028. That was like concept development design work and looking into property acquisition that would be needed for it. So, but the construction is between 2029 and 2032 on this project. And as always, there's a host of fleet vehicles that get replaced every year, and they get looked at for right sizing and right type. If it's electric, makes sense. If the traditional makes sense and that type of thing. So every year there's a number that needs to be done. And then kind of circling back to the emerging issues, I think we've talked about this one a little bit, but there is a upcoming GPC in June that Mr. Rosen and Ms. Fournier will be talking a bit more about our sewer DCC challenges and some approaches for council to consider. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And a question through you. Well, first of all, I should say that the slide on the development cost shares, very pleased to see that kind of work being done where we add something to get a project completed. That was really good news. But the concern that I had, and I think His Worship talked about this a bit, the commercial street upgrades, I was concerned about in 2028 you want to do the membrane, but then you don't want to come back and do the Diana Crawl work until, I think you've got it at 2032, and I'm just wondering about that gap in time. That's the way it reads, and I just wondered, obviously the membrane needs to be done. We don't want it coming down, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned about how those two are so many years apart.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Perino, my apologies if it reads that way. It wasn't intentional. So it'd be the membrane and the putting back Diana Crawl Plaza, and then also the space in front of Diana Crawl Plaza, like across from Red's Bakery and that type of thing. So that whole section, kind of as shown on the slide, flip back here, will be done as part of this project in 2028. And then the next phase is starting at that kind of the edge of the blue and kind of working south towards Terminal Avenue.
Okay, so the plan is then just to do the membrane in 2028 and then to move forward to do the actual underground and above ground work in 2032.
So it's the membrane and what goes back on top as well. So like the streetscape upgrades and that type of thing.
Okay, so then the future phase, that phase will then be done, is that what you're thinking, 2028?
Yeah, 2028, and then the future phase will take it from where this one leaves off, just in front of...
right down to Terminal?
Yeah, and go down to Terminal.
Okay, and that's 2032?
That's 2030,
okay.
And then the 2032 one is the one on Victoria Crescent on the other side of Terminal Avenue.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kesselbrock.
Now I'm confused. So replacing the membrane requires tearing up everything. Okay, so that whole area, so when we had that consultant come in and kind of did that reimagining process and redesign, when that gets put back together, is roughly that concept, we're going to get more public feedback in that, I imagine, but is being put back into the actual plaza area?
Through the chair to Councillor Kesselbrock. So the several years ago, there was a consultant that came in and did a bit of reimagining of that, and we've taken a lot of the principles out of that and moved forward with the design, and we have a fairly solid design for the front half, as I mentioned, but we haven't really, their focus was more on the commercial street and that piece of it there in front of the library and the bank. And didn't really focus on the back half. So we really do have to do that work with the community to understand what that section by the Port Theatre and then the large space that next to Front Street would look like as well. And I think as far as kind of what we saw on their concept, I think we'll definitely be pulling some of the principles from that forward, but not everything has kind of survived the practicality lens, I think, on some of the things that they were looking at.
Okay, great. So basically when that membrane comes up, the plaza plus the chunk of road, like directly in front, it will be replaced and upgraded?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the subsequent was from that area that was changed down to Commercial Street. That's the okay, 32. Okay, and then in terms of the design of what gets put down once everything's ripped up, will that will that design come to council, like, you know, after public input in that, kind of have a final look at sort of what it'll look like being replaced?
Through the chair to Councilor Besser, absolutely, that was our plan, to do the community engagement and then come and do some engagement work with council before we decide. This is one of those that definitely needs some input before we finalize it.
Great, awesome, thank you, clear, much appreciated.
Okay. Not seeing any other further questions. Thank you very much. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, thank you. So I'm here just to briefly touch on the next steps for the RCMP detachment project. So in follow-up to last fall's presentation to the committee and then through council's approval, we are moving forward with that next step in regard to the development project for the RCMP renewal replacement. Actually, today at 3 p.m., the NRFP document closes for contracted project management services to help us take this project through these next steps. And so the plan will be that for early next year, late Q1, early Q2, we'll come back to council with what we said we would do last fall in regard to looking at very specific locations at the 575 Fitzwilliam location and then the 303 location to see what makes the most sense in regard to current need, future need, and just that best return on investment.
Good morning, Your Worship, Council. As Mr. Rosen identified for many of the engineering projects, facility asset management.
My apologies, questions. With the RCMP upgrades, basically this next phase of study, basically is it at a stage of like analyzing what is feasible, like what are the current needs, what is feasible, and then coming back with an idea of options around like full upgrades or building on certain properties? That's basically where it's at?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Gesselbart, exactly. So it's not a start from scratch process because so much quality work has already been done in regard to you know, the current need, square footage, the growth that we're anticipating in regard to like the city and the RCMP detachment. So exactly that, it'll be looking at current facilities, you know, is renovation and expansion the best option? Is that the best option on the 575 property, or is that the best option on the 303 property? So we just taking all of the work that has been previously done and really condensing it down to those two locations to come up with the best solution and trying to come up with a more economical solution, I guess I would say, based on, you know, numbers from before were very large, but this will be able to, we'll be able to define that cost much better.
Okay, so the number of iterations that we've gone through, I mean, like, I think this is the first year that, you know, 7 years ago that this conversation was happening. Basically, all that information is going to be reviewed. And then given, I think one estimate was like 270 or something like that. And then we're looking at comparisons with Kelowna, taking that into consideration. This second review is sort of looking at the scoping of what is actually necessary. Okay.
Yeah,
and it's restricted to those two sites. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good morning. As Mr. Rosen identified for many of the engineering projects in the linear infrastructure, vertical infrastructure is very similar in the facility portfolio. We do need to make sure that we complete all those mundane tasks, painting, roofing, flooring, all of those things to make sure that our facilities continue to provide the services that everybody knows and loves. So the next few slides are really just highlighting some of those asset renewal projects that we are undertaking in the next 5 years. So parkades, we've got a number of things. The larger ones are listed there on the slides. Probably the most, the one that might catch the mayor's eye is the waterproofing membrane. Parkades are a very expensive asset to be maintaining, especially those waterproofing membranes. They do make sure that we keep the structure safe. So unfortunately is one of those things that we have to keep working on. Corporate facilities, these include City Hall and Sark and again, some larger of the asset renewal projects that are planned for the next few years. Interior painting, some asset renewals, building controls. These are the systems that work with the mechanical system to provide heating and cooling in the areas that are needed. And that control system in City Hall is quite old, and that will be being replaced. So we'll see some efficiencies there, and as well as some increased occupant comfort. You've just heard from Mr. Groot regarding the police, the RCMP building. There are some ongoing asset renewals that are needed in the meantime while the new detachment is planned out. And so those have been included in the budget. You will note at the bottom that there are some deferred renewals because staff are looking very carefully at where we must do some work to maintain police operations and where we can maybe take on a little bit more risk with respect to saving that money now, knowing that there is a new detachment in progress. Vancouver Island Conference Centre, obviously an economic driver for the city, so ensuring that it is maintained in a functional and appealing way is really critical to the portfolio. And again, we've got a number of asset renewal type projects listed there, some flooring, lighting, controls, those sorts of things. Ms. Fuller would have talked about earlier the mechanical system renewal, because that is part of, I believe, borrowing, and the roof replacement. Obviously, this is a very large building, and those two systems are really interconnected in the way it was put together. And so we've tried to find some efficiencies with how we're working through these projects, and those two are the major drivers in that budget number there. And just to highlight as to the age of our portfolio, we do maintain a number of buildings, and I've highlighted a few here that are reaching major milestones this year. The one that struck me the most was the water treatment plant. I still personally consider that to be a fairly new building. As you'll see, it turns 11 years old this year, which means, as Ms. Fuller identified earlier, we're starting to do project planning, and we're considering the next 10 years. So that will have the water treatment plant being 20 years old, at which point it starts to attract significantly more investment needed for mechanical systems, pumps, roofing, all of those things that once you build a building, you tend to say, okay, we're done, we can leave it alone for a little while. Unfortunately, we are now out of that time on the water treatment plant. Fire Station 1 is another one that I'm reminded of that turns 5 this year. It's one of those reminders that as we keep building new, we do need to continue to reinvest in those facilities so they can continue to deliver the services that we expect.
Nothing wrong with aging infrastructure. I'm operating on aging infrastructure.
This is making me remember a different meeting that we had. Thank you.
Thank you. No questions? Councillor Manley, please.
I'm curious about the VICC roof, whether installing solar on top of the roof when the roof is being redone has been considered. That's the cheap time to install solar, and we're seeing solar prices are dropping really rapidly. But I think the amount of solar now around the world is enough to power Europe. So, or something similar like that. That's so I'm just curious whether it's been considered. The payback time is dropping rapidly too. So,
through your worship to Councillor Manley, this would be an appropriate time to add it. We have not currently included any solar in the roof replacement. The payback period for commercial installations is definitely reaching a very critical point, and it's one of the things that we're carefully watching, because we want to make sure that if a system is installed and it has a break-even point at the service life, there's a lot of maintenance and optimism that then goes into, we need to make sure that we're collecting as much energy as we expect it to collect. Otherwise, it doesn't become a value proposition for the residents of Nanaimo. So we're looking at solar at a portfolio level to make sure that we are considering that payback period and appropriate investment in solar. The other piece of that is BC Hydro has very different rules for large commercial portfolio holders than they do for residential. So the net metering that a homeowner can work with, because of the large areas of commercial roofing, we don't have the same infinite put back into the grid opportunity that a residential would, because they can manage the size of that input much more readily. So one of the things we're looking at is considering the base building load and not connecting to the grid, but then that has a number of economic factors to consider as well. So it's a bit of a thing that we're keeping an eye on at a portfolio level, and then each time we do a roof, then we can consider solar.
Yeah, I guess that's something, it's interesting to know that, because that's something to lobby BC Hydro about, because, you know, if you can pay back a solar system in the half-life of your roof, then it makes sense to do that. And that's about what, you know, a residential system will do now. If you have a 25-year roof, you can put solar on it and pay back your solar system in 12 years, and the time to do it is when you're re-roofing. But yeah, interesting to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Osborne, good morning. Ms. Davis, Mr. Bryson.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Slight shift from facility and infrastructure to cultural infrastructure. Two new temporary public art projects were selected to be completed in 2026. Eliza Gardner and Isaiah Kingdom's project, The Forest Flowers, has been installed at Kinnett Evergreen Park. This project featured sculptural clusters of 3 oversized, vividly colored flower forms inspired by a rare but regionally significant wildflower that is native to the Harewood Plains. I just saw pictures of it yesterday, and it's quite spectacular, so hopefully you'll have a chance to view it shortly. The second one was Twyla Exner's project, and Crustacean Barnacles of Belonging. This will involve a series of public engagement workshops where members of the public will be able to create their own barnacle forms, which will then be cast in durable materials and installed at Maffeo Sutton Park on the waterfront walkway. We have had a number of, sorry, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Sorry, I've lost my place in my notes here. The urban design roster projects. I got distracted by the beautiful artwork from Eliza Gardner. Sorry, the urban design roster continues to be very busy with several projects in collaboration with other city departments, such as Tarsila Nerves, which is a Memory Maker's interactive sculptural design, also with some public input, and installed at the Bevan Park outdoor classroom. These 3 hybrid creatures are a blend of native animals and plants and are designed with touch-based play elements. Many of you who were at the opening of the Bevan Park outdoor classroom recall that these features were located and to be displayed shortly. Second, Sebastian Aboud has designed an asphalt artwork for the intersection of McCleary and Campbell Streets. This painting is scheduled to begin in July, and the concept was developed with input from community members. The painting of the artwork includes public participation through drop-in painting sessions, which will be lots of fun for the neighborhood. Third, and in collaboration with Elilam, artwork by the late Joel Good is being transformed into large-scale sculptural forms and will be installed with the newly transformed Bowen Park Disc Golf Course. The 3 designs will appear at the start of each of the holes of the course, and the project is being done with support of the Nanaimo Disc Golf Club in a way of honoring Joel Good, who was a beloved member of the club. And the public art maintenance, as part of our ongoing public art maintenance, the mural on the washroom building at the Deverell Square Park was removed. It was well past its lifespan and showing a great deal of wear and tear. The original artist, Devon van der Cooley, will be recreating a mural on the building this summer with input from the community that is intended to reflect the neighborhood while honoring the original mural that was designed. Project highlights. Aligning with priorities in the city plan, including fostering neighborhood identifying by supporting community-driven art projects, many of our upcoming projects include the integration of public art into park spaces and local neighborhoods. These include the aforementioned public art to be installed at Bevan Park Outdoor Classroom, the public art by Joel Good incorporated at the Bowen Disc Golf Course, and the asphalt art project being completed in the intersection of McCleary and Campbell Streets. These all have been done with public engagement, playing a pivotal role in the development of the delivery of these projects.
Councillor Hemmons has a question.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for the presentation. I'm really excited to see the public art at the intersection of McCleary and Campbell. And of course, South End resident, I have to ask, the South End Community Centre has been asking for some painted something on the 5-way intersection stop. I never considered public art as an active transportation piece, and I'm just saying, this is something that I think has been on priority list for SECA for a number of years, and I'm so excited to see the city go down this route, and I would love to see art applied to intersections at places that we're trying to slow people down throughout the city.
Yeah.
Just excited. Thank you.
Yeah, through his worship to Councillor Hemmons, this was an exciting project for our staff to engage on with the neighborhood, and we're excited to see what the end result will be and if it will help to alleviate some of the concerns in that neighborhood. Planned public art projects for 2027. Public art projects will continue, including the installation of 2 new temporary art projects, as well as a call for proposals for the 2028 projects. And our urban design roster will continue with a variety of different projects and collaborations, including art wrap for our traffic cabinets, public art embedded into infrastructure renewal and upgrades, and beautification projects such as mural and collaboration projects, like the one listed here, the wind phone, shown just above. And lastly, for culture, our cultural facilities. We work very closely with our cultural partners operating out of the city-owned facilities to understand their needs and to plan for renewal and upgrades within their facilities. Between 2027 and 2030, we will see $5.1 million is budgeted to maintain these key cultural spaces and improve the experiences for patrons and visitors. These include from painting the exterior of the Vancouver Island Military Museum to completing electrical upgrades and renewals at the Port Theatre and the OV Art Centre, to upgrading the lighting within the Nanaimo Museum and the flooring within our performing arts spaces. The cultural team and the facility team and our cultural partners are working hard to ensure that these facilities are well maintained. Thank you.
Mr. Bryson.
Good morning, Council. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the stuff we've been doing in our facilities, currently doing, and what we're planning to do in the future. We've talked about this a couple of times, but for me, it's an important one. We're having a lot of success with the new chemical changes, the new controller changes, the new way we're looking at treating the water in our aquatic facilities. It's been quite successful as far as the water quality, user satisfaction, the air quality that we're seeing because we're not putting as many chemicals into the water. That being said, we are tweaking the system. We are seeing some differences in how we use our chlorine and acid compared to what we're using with the new chemicals. So we are working with our supplier and the contractor who helped us install this equipment to fine-tune this equipment so we're getting the best, most efficient, most cost-efficient system possible. But the result is the water is crystal clear. There's very little debris, other than we do have one of the side effects of putting in this new chemicals. It does actually clean out the pipes. So in the case of Bevan Pool, where we've also got this system in place, we're looking at a 50-year-old pool with a buildup of whatever's in those pipes. So we're finding with the new chemicals, it is actually causing that stuff to break up and release. So we're catching that, but it's it's nice to know that it's coming out of the pipes, but it is but it's working well. So that's been a really good project. We're really happy with it, and as we go along, and especially with new HVAC upgrades that we're doing at NAC, we'll see better air quality, less chloramines into the air, less trichloramines. It'll be a much better system for people to swim in. Another project we worked on that was kind of a surprise to us, when we took the water out of our kin pool last fall, large sections of the paint fell away. It just had become unadhered to the concrete below. And this is just over time. The original coat that was put on the last time the pool was coated was an acrylic paint, and it doesn't stay as long as the paint we put on this time. So just to make sure that we did it properly and we started fresh, we actually had the whole entire pool sandblasted, which turned out to be quite a task. It took a long time, a lot of sand, but we got it completely down to bare concrete. We then covered the whole pool with you might have seen it if you drove by Bowen and saw a kin pool from the road. It was a large white tarp over a scaffold structure. It was quite elaborate. It had a door, the whole bit. Then we were able to pump heat into that area and keep it completely dry, so we had an optimum area to work with. We had our painting contractor do the interior of that pool. They put 3 coats of an epoxy paint on there. It's called Ramic is the product. But it's very, very hard, very durable, very resistant to any kind of chemical, to UV from the sun, that type of stuff. And we're expecting we'll have a very long period of time before we have to recoat that pool, which will save us a fair amount of money that we have budgeted every year. So that'll be a win for us in the long run. But it looks great now. The pool looks brand new, so we're happy with that. And on the other side of that, the facility asset team has installed 2 high energy efficient boilers in there, which we're only using 1 boiler at this point. We're actually capable. So if time comes when we have to extend the season a little bit longer, or if we get a colder fall and we want to keep people in the pool, we have no problem. We have lots of capacity, so they're much more efficient. This one we've talked about a couple of times, but it was a success and we're really happy with it. It's the work we did with 7 Potatoes in the Tyco drum space up in Bevan Park, room 6. It worked out very well. We're very happy with the product. We're still the only area that we didn't insulate as we did with the entire room was the door going into the space. So when they're playing their drums, that door is that's our weak point. So I was talking to Tammy about it a little while ago, and they're thinking of putting a large curtain over top of the front of it, or some way to stop that sound from penetrating to the rest of the building. But it's a pretty cool sound, so I don't think too many people are too worried about it. But it did turn out quite well, and it's getting well used. And the entranceway in the middle there, you can see one of our carpenters. There was because we had to widen the door, it was quite unsightly with the jamb that they had to put in there. So I asked him if he could kind of come up with some kind of creative way of covering that up. So Brent, one of our carpenters, came up with that design, and they seemed to like it, and we're quite happy with it.
I think it looks great.
Yeah, the only, in talking with Tammy from 7 Potatoes, she said that actual design of pagoda is for religious entry. So she said it confuses some people. They think they have to bow when they go in there, but she's quite happy with it. This is concerning our bleachers at the Winnipeg Stadium. They have been completed and are in use. A great addition to that field. It's a very impressive structure. Everyone that uses it are very happy with it. It's completely accessible, has several stalls for accessibility. Right at this point, it has over 1,300, I think about 1,340 seats, so it can hold large crowds. The media booth is in operation. We're in the process. We're working with our IT department to get the final permanent Wi-Fi into our media booth, but we have got a workaround for our user groups so that their performance as far as streaming the games hasn't been interrupted. And so far it's turned out to be very nice. The landscaping around the back of it turned out very well. They did a great job with paving back there and putting some nice trees. So it's a very pleasant addition to that whole stadium district. This one's been on the books for a little while, and we're at the final part. We're actually should be submitting our building permit application within the next week. I was talking to our engineer yesterday about this. This has gone through a whole bunch of iterations and changes, but it's what it is, 2 completely fully accessible washrooms to be a permanent structure between the bleachers along the first baseline of the baseball stadium. There's the temporary ones we have in place there right now. These will replace that. We have to wait until the season's finished at this point. The building permit, of course, the application takes a little while to process through, but we anticipate this being installed through the fall and winter of 2026, so it's ready for the 2027 season. It'll be a very good addition to that part of the park.
Councillor Hemmons has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Bryson, will these only be open during baseball games, or will they be open to the public?
They would be open, I believe, when the park is activated. I don't know if we would open it otherwise, but that's something we could certainly consider if there's a need for it. If there's activity in that area that requires it, and it's something we could. We don't open the ones we have right now. We only do them when the park's activated, just for maintenance and wear and tear. So we've done it that way, but it's certainly something we could look at.
Yeah, that makes sense. A question around activation. What would qualify as activation? Like, are we seeing kids' soccer practices? Are we opening the bathrooms for those?
In our other fields, we certainly do. As far as we have, we also have the washrooms in the bleachers for the Rotary Park. Right. So we do open those if we have activity on the fields. So we have other options as well. But if there was a large enough crowd, or if that part of the field or that part of the stadium was being activated, it's something we would look at as an overflow.
Great, thank you, good to see.
Some planned projects. This is an ongoing one, but one we're very proud of and we're very happy to do is our accessibility audits. To date, we have 8 facilities. We've gone through complete accessibility audits, and they're very successful. It's a real eye-opener for us to see when we go into these facilities, because you go through with one lens, but when you go through with the lens of an auditor, you see the different difficulties that some of the folks that in our community have, the challenges. So it's a really good process. We're very happy to do it. We've got several facilities lined up for this year. The next one up is the museum, which is the one we're going to be taking on. We're also doing some parks through Charlotte and her team. So we're ongoing with that, and it's just it's been a really good process, and really happy with the way it's turning out. So our ongoing project or future projects for recreation facilities. There's several here. The water slides, flume. This is in conjunction a lot of the work we're doing. A lot of the work we do is we do with the asset management team. They do some planning. We do some planning. We work together. We collaborate on a lot of these projects. So it's some of these projects they're taking the lead on. Some of them we're taking the lead on. The NAC water slide flume. Those have to be replaced in the near future. The bleachers, the pull-out bleachers that NAC, those have to be replaced. They just kind of sit there, and it's not a great environment for anything made out of metal, so they do need to be replaced. The NAC score clock should be just clocking. Clockboard replacement is due. The fire alarm upgrades, diving boards, ongoing operational smaller capital projects that we see all the time, but it's the maintenance of those facilities, and it's crucial that we do them. Sauna upgrades, we've done a couple last year, and we'll be doing a couple this year, so it's another ongoing one. That's the bottom of Bevan Pool you see there, and this year we're adding, after COVID, Bevan Pool sat empty for some time, and it dried out the grout. I don't know if anyone remembers, we were losing upwards of about 90 liters a minute when we had that pool full, so it was draining a lot of water, and it was just going into the aquifer. So we tried several things to remedy to that. We found an epoxy. It's through a contractor that specializes in this kind of product, and it's an epoxy. We coated the deep tank, and that epoxy stopped it from leaking. We're down to about 2 liters a minute, which is normal wear and tear, water splashing out. So we're recoating that again this year, but it's a relatively inexpensive fix for what was a large problem. It's about $10,000 to $15,000 to coat it, so it's and our staff can do it. Those kinds of things are ongoing all the time. Some other projects, Bevan Park Complex, auditorium and leisure pool roof is another one that asset management is working on. Social center flooring, redoing the floor in the social center. It's wear and tear, those wood floors take a beating. HVAC renewal, this is outside of the grant that we're looking for Bevan Park. This is pumps and motors and some of the HVAC that we're doing work on. Oliver Woods Community Center, mechanical renewal, that's an ongoing thing, and we see as we go through these facilities. Some of the emerging issues, heat cooling system here at the VICC and the Nanaimo Museum, that's an ongoing one. We're looking at some remedies. I've done a lot of work in the last little while on some options. So we'll be presenting that to our finance team as what that looks like as far as fixing that. Right now it's a lot of maintenance for the equipment that we have in place. So we're going to try and fix that. Transformer at NAC, that one I think most of you probably know we had problems with around Christmas time, It caused us to shut down the Nanaimo Aquatic Center for a period of time, and it was really lucky that we got it up and going again. It could have been catastrophic, because to get one of these transformers can take up to a year, and that would have meant we would have been either renting a very large generator or having to shut down that pool for a long period of time. So we've got it up and fixed, and we've taken steps to mitigate the issue so that we can keep it going for a fairly long period of time. That said, we are actively looking at replacing it as soon as possible. So it's an important one. And then, but that leads to, like several of our facilities, as Ms. McCaskill had mentioned, are, they're aging, and they do need more specific maintenance as time goes on, and it's just something we're very aware of. Our team and the facility asset management team are, I think, spend a lot of time working on this exact topic, and we take it very serious and spend a lot of time on it, and the municipality spends a lot of money on maintaining these facilities, but we do a very good job, but it's just something we need to be aware of when these facilities are getting quite old. So it's an ongoing issue, but it's one that we'd like to take care of. I think that's it for me.
Councillor Perino, and then Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to Mr. Bryson. I'm just wondering about the curling club. Is everything done there with the roof and anything? I just didn't see it on the list, so I wondered where we were.
As the Chair of Council Perino, the curling club, we are looking at doing some remedial work to the roof, putting a membrane over top of it that'll give it some more life and it'll extend it. I met with the curling club president last week and had a good chat about it, and it's just it will definitely give it some more life. It'll stop it from any potential leaks. The structure of that building, we've done a couple of forensic audits on it, and the structure of the building is in really good shape. It's for its age, and the type of roof that's there and that, but it does need some help. And we're going to be doing that.
Okay. So it's not on the list. Budget concerns?
Budget concerns, it's not as the original budget concern, but original budget to redo the roof was in the $3 million range. We've actually brought that down to approximately the budgetary quote we had was about $250,000.
Wow, okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you so much.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. There we go. Thanks, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, to Mr. Bryson. Thank you. It's always impressive to recognize the extent of our city facilities and the amount of time and energy that it takes to keep them well maintained and plan ahead. So thank you for that. In your report, there were several references to the Nanaimo Aquatic Center, which does not surprise me, but I didn't see anything related to our ice surfaces, Cliff McNabb or Nanaimo Ice Center, any of them, and I'm assuming that there are obviously maintenance needs there as well, but anything major on the horizon for our ice surface facilities?
My apology, through the Chair to Councilor Thorpe, my apologies. There are several projects that are ongoing in the ice facilities at any given time. I didn't put them in my report, but I can speak to a couple of the larger ones. Probably the most significant is we are replacing the cooling tower at the Cliff McNabb facility this summer. So that's a significant component. What it does is it cools down the ammonia in the refrigeration plant, and it's essential for the operation. So that one's being replaced in, I believe, August during their shutdown. There's several other smaller projects that are ongoing with HVAC, with dehumidification, those types of things. We're doing some work on the bank of batteries that act as a generator for the Nanaimo Ice Center. So there's some ongoing maintenance issues, but probably the largest one for the rest of 2026 is the condenser.
All right, thanks very much. I'm sure the list is extensive and you can't mention everything. Thank you.
There's a few, yeah, thanks.
Not seeing any further questions. Ms. Davis, your turn.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Before we jump into some of the 2026 highlights on parks, I would just like to take the opportunity to answer a question that was raised earlier by Councillor Manley in relation to East Wellington Park. We do have the adopted Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan for East Wellington Park, and one of the goals of that is to improve access to the park. So obviously we will have to still incur some of the same hurdles working with the ALC, but I wanted to assure Council that we maintain that goal as a priority, and so we will continue to work through that as we implement that parks plan.
A follow-up to that. Just dealing with the ALC, because that pipeline's going in right alongside of the cliff. The upper side of the cliff is, I think, city property, or there's a piece of the cliff on Westwood Road that is city property. Has it been explored at all with the ALC about, I think they will do an exchange for land if you put land into the ALR somewhere else to take a piece out. Has that ever been entertained? Because that connection from, you know, the rest of our parkway trails through to that park and then into the East Wellington Road area it's an important connection. If you're building a sewer line, it makes a lot of sense to put a walking and cycling trail on top of it. I'm just curious about. I know they can be sticky.
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Manley, to my understanding that has not been considered or looked through at the moment, but I think it's an interesting suggestion and something we could look further into as part of implementing the plan.
Right, because they're always looking for net gains if they're losing something, but, okay, thanks.
Okay, so jumping into the 2026 highlights in the Parks Division, one of the projects we were happy to open up this year in partnership with the Seed neighbourhood was the extension of the E&N Trail, which was built to a recreational standard through the South End neighbourhood, travelling 1.2 kilometres from Heckett Street to 7th Street. This is a trail beside rail project, and it is heavily used and has been well received by the community. We have our sights set on future expansion utilising this standard also. Another exciting project that unfortunately has had a little bit of a hiccup of late because the weather has been so dry. We were almost ready to open our first machine-built flow trail in Westwood Ridges, which is part of the 50-acre parcel that was recently acquired about 2-3 years ago. And the weather has been so dry, it doesn't make good for good mountain bike trail building, but we have been working so well with the Nanaimo Mountain Bike Club to deliver this project, which will be a blue trail, 1.1 kilometres long, and has lots of fun features built into it. So it's the first time where we've been in and utilised a machine to build these features, which result in a more flowy, fun trail. And other projects for this year, we have some continued improvements in Lotus Pinatus Park. The images before you there are work that was undertaken in 2024. We have more trail surfacing to undertake this year, a few more areas of boardwalk, a kiosk, and some plant identification signage planned also. And that work is due to be undertaken in the next couple of weeks here. Beneath that, you can see some improvements we have planned in the Deverell Square Park relating to the court. We've been working with the neighbourhood and the urban design roster, and the neighbourhood have selected Noel Brown to prepare some art that will be placed onto the surface later this year. We will also be undertaking some fencing of the court, and we've beared in mind a lot of SEPTED considerations and worked with the neighbourhood around some concerns there. So I think the neighbourhood are very excited about this project, and the fencing will incorporate both basketball and hockey amenities. At Westwood Lake Park, we are excited to deliver some shade on First Beach. This was one of the things that we had hoped to deliver as part of the Phase 2 improvements, and we're now glad to be bringing this forward this year. It is kind of a pilot for us, so it's a movable shade structure, and we know that our community is heating up and we want to keep people cool and shaded in our parks. So we look forward to seeing how this one works out, and it might be something we're able to roll out in other parks in the future. Also looking over at Bevan Park, we plan to resurface the courts there. We have received a grant from Tennis Canada to carry out this work. We will be continuing the same configuration of our courts, and that's something that's important that the community have been asking about. So as they are configured right now, that will be carried forward. They will be resurfaced and new nets and new posts. And then our parks planner has been working closely with the neighbours at Barney Marriott's playground for a new playground there that will be planned later this fall, and also potentially including a new bike path. What we are not touching is the slides. They are staying as is, where is for now, and we continue to monitor their safety, and they're meeting all of the safety standards. In the stadium district, we are completing phase 3 of the master plan this year, which is the movement of the pole vault and the high jump. So they're going to be completely moved and resurfaced. And also as part of that, we are replacing all of the turf and a new irrigation system. So it's really going to look much better and be far safer for everybody there. And that has been developed in partnership, of course, with the Nanaimo Track and Field Club. A couple of multi-year projects that we've got going on, and some of these are our bigger dollar projects. Obviously, we've been working closely with Council and the Accessibility Committee on the Maffeo Sutton amenity building, which is presently moving into the structural design phases and is due to be completed in 2028. And then also we continue to work closely with the community on the Loudon Park Improvement Project, which is progressing well, and had a second meeting with the community in the park last week. And that one is also due to be completed along the same timeline. So delivering benefits both for the high-end sport and housing of boats, but also for the community, so that everybody can come to the park, spend time with their families, and spend the whole day. Use the picnic amenities and use the playground and use the washrooms.
Councillor Gesselbrock has a question.
Thanks. Just on the Maffeo Sutton amenity building, it's the first time that I heard it referred to as amenity building and not the washroom upgrade. So I'm just curious, like with the green room and small multi-use space, is that basically like for events? Like a green room is like if there's a large event for people to go in there beforehand. And can you just speak a little bit more about the additional rooms there?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Gesselbrock, that's absolutely right. We are creating a space for people to be able to put on their best performances and utilise that green space so they can prepare and really make the most of the Lions Pavilion for a performance event space.
Great. And is that the same as the multi-use space, or is that different?
There is different multi-use space planned within the amenity building, and it will be relatively flexible. It came about after development with the Accessibility Committee. We want to make this, everybody in our parks feel welcome. If you are there with your family, you can use the washroom alongside your small child. If you are there with a wheelchair user friend, they have the amenities there as well. If you need to change an adult diaper, you can do that in this space also. If you're there with a child with sensory needs, there will be a quiet space where you can retire to that will feel safe and clean for you to take that 5 minutes and then go and enjoy the playground.
So that's kind of what the multi-use space is, sort of a smaller indoor area that people can go access. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino, then Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very quick question. I just wanted to reconfirm. You said both of those projects will be done by 2028? Did I hear that?
Our current timeline has completion of these projects in 2028.
Great news. Thank you so much.
Councillor Manley, please.
Yeah, I'm just, because you mentioned the, I can't remember what you call it now, the bandstand at Maffeo Sutton. Is there plans for any kind of audio treatment in there? Like, if you have amplified instruments in there, it's like you're in a tin can, basically. It's not conducive for performances, and you see a lot of people put the stage out front and a tent out front, and it's, so I'm just curious about where that's at.
Through the chair to Councillor Manley, thank you for asking that question, because we've heard about that a lot, and we are actually working with an acoustics consultant right now to understand the issues and to plan a project that will resolve them. And we recognise that the sound is not as best it can be, and we plan to take care of those improvements along the same timeline as the amenity building.
Okay, great, thanks.
Another large project that we have in the early conceptual design phases at the moment is the planned Stadium District amenity building, which will incorporate both a renovation of the existing grandstands and a new building in between them. And this is about making the most of our Stadium District for being able to hold sporting events, largely looking at football and soccer, but also the opportunity to support what's going on at the baseball stadium there. So we have been working with our user groups to receive feedback on our early conceptual design and have made tweaks and are now looking to move into that structural design phase here. Some more improvements are planned at Westwood Lake Park. These are planned to be designed to be undertaken this year with construction timed for implementation of spring of 2028. This phase is based around the improvements between first and second beach. And we've mentioned this to council before, that if you're a wheelchair user, you're not able to get from first to second without going up onto the road. And we also are excited to be able to improve that full riparian area, so there will be work under a permit working in the riparian area, and also improving access to everyone to water. Some other projects further out, in 2030 we have the replacement of the Oliver Woods Playground, which is a large destination park playground, and so we'll be working to begin construction for 2030, so lots of planning to come in advance of that. And here are some other highlights from our capital plan. We have the Linley Park Plan implementation, so you'll be hearing from us later this year about what we have planned for the planning process of the Linley Park Plan, and we need to implement those findings, and so we're estimating that we'll need to plan around $2 million in future years. Also, at Piper Park, we have this incredible jewel in our downtown, and we are planning to make some improvements there. So it may be that this park might need to be a gated park, but absolutely accessible to all during the day, and potentially have some interesting gates so we're able to close it at night. And that might be, that would be a first for us, but in a downtown location, that might be our answer. We do know that we have to undertake fencing work there anyway. We've had conversations with MIA about the lay of the land there, and it requires more fencing. So we see this as an opportunity to work with our partners as well at the Vancouver Island Military Museum and really make this space in our downtown sing. Again, we touched on it earlier, the E&N improvements. We have future phases planned and have put some money in the plan for those later this year and future years. Continued work at the Stadium District. Now this time it's with some art projects which we've placed in the capital plan. More court improvements. We've heard from the community that they would like to see improvements in their neighbourhood parks, in their neighbourhood courts rather, so that is what we're going to be undertaking, that annual court improvement programme for the one-off courts that are in neighbourhoods. Similarly, the shade projects and ongoing need to improve the Parkway Trail, and also park security camera projects. That's something that we would like to have anchored in our capital plan every year.
Sorry, Councillor Manley, if I left you over, you've got another one. Okay, thank you.
And just over to the last slide here, which is around our emerging issues. Asset management, same for everyone. We have some aging assets. We're undertaking the asset management update this year with the finance department. A couple of things we're looking into is our trails, the conditions of our medians and boulevards, and also our courts. So we'll be getting that information and updating the asset management plan with that. We also, like everything, have demands with resourcing. So our parks are incredibly busy. We are now a larger population, and lots of people are moving here to recreate in our parks. That creates usage. It's a good problem to have, but some of our parks are in danger of being loved to death, so we continue to manage that. Advancing the Bevan Park Master Plan is a demand, but it's also an opportunity. As you'll see on the note below, we have many potential opportunities for partnership and many incredible organisations and user groups who we love to work with in our community. Advancing the Bevan Park Master Plan will really be done in partnership with the community and leveraging so many of those relationships. And then just the opportunity as well to pivot how we use some of our facilities and parks and think about how we meet the needs of our community. And then lastly, just around project management, we always continue to work with our current resources and look to see how we can change up our usage of project management resources. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, Ms. Davis, it's 10:29, 8:18 by my clock. That's a pretty marvelous timing. Time for the morning break. Councillor Thorpe, you've got a question.
Yeah, sorry to delay us from our morning break, Your Worship, but thanks, Ms. Davis. I do have a couple of quick questions, and first of all, just going back a couple of slides, you don't need to find it, but the Stadium District amenity buildings, I know we're in preliminary discussions. Do you have a rough idea of where that building might be located?
Through your worship to Councillor Thorpe, the amenity building is designed to go in between the existing Rotary Bowl grandstands. So is the clear space in between there, and also the renovation is underneath the existing grandstands.
Okay.
So right now we have some aged washroom, change room in there, and also some storage in there too. And that will be renovated, and new washrooms and new washrooms will go in there, and then the space in the middle will be used for change rooms. Also, as part of that project, there's an additional storage and throwing facility, which will be used by the track and field community and also the baseball community. And that presently is planned to go behind the Sir Oxman Stadium in the area where they have the storage cans at the moment.
Thank you. I can picture that. Wonderful. Secondly, if I may, Your Worship, the parking lot outside of Sir Oxman Stadium was paved last spring or summer, I believe. I quite often get questions about people not being able to park there. Am I correct when I tell them that that parking area is reserved for the high school?
Through the chair to Councillor Thorpe on that one. We do have an agreement with the high school for usage there. Yes, we absolutely do. And it's a reciprocal agreement, and it's currently under review right now as well for looking at how we will continue to move forward on that one. It's interesting to hear the concerns about a lack of space for parking. I would suggest that's likely only during the school day there. And I'm generally seeing that we do have spaces available across the road at the Nanaimo Ice Centre as well.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my answer to those people is basically correct. I know especially in track and field season when a lot of groups are using the track, they think they can park there, but really they should not. So thank you. I will pass along that message. Whenever I speak to visitors in our city that have come here for sporting events, they're always so impressed with our facilities and amazed that we have such great quality sporting facilities in Nanaimo. So congratulations and thank you for your work. I must comment that I was at Barney Moritz Park not too long ago, and I would be scared to go down that slide. Are you sure we're not replacing it? It looked very steep and old to me.
Oh, where's your sense of
I know.
I'm scared to replace that slide. We hear so much from the community about its value in people's hearts.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, let's slide into the break then. Thank you very much. 10 minutes.
Start of the presentation, we are looking for feedback from the committee. This is your opportunity to give us some feedback so that we can incorporate it to ensure that the draft project plan we bring in the fall has things that you are looking for in the plan, supports your strategic priorities, and follows city plan. We're looking at all those things, but of course, you do set the priorities for staff on what you would like to see in the project plan. So we'd like to take this opportunity to gather your feedback.
Councillor Hemmons, then Councillor Perino, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll kick it off by saying this was a really impressive report and wonderful to see all the work that we're involved in. Personally, I don't have any projects that I need to see done or put in the plan. I appreciate the focus on asset management. That is really important to me as we see aging infrastructure come up. In particular, I've got my eye on the RCMP building just because of the price tag. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. I might have more after others weigh in.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought this whole presentation was just really well done. Just, touching on so many different things. And it's almost disappointing because There's so much that's needed for asset management, and there's always new projects to bring forward. So I'm just going to mention a couple of things that have been brought forward to me. So, of course, the walkway, the departure walk, the walkway, I'd love to see some more discussion on that. The South End Community Center, obviously, I think we really do need to get that going as much as possible. It's so desperately needed. You only have to go to Oliver Woods to see how important that would be for that group. And a small project that I think would be a really nice benefit to the community that use BMX bikes is the lights. Because they come, once it's dusk, it's dangerous to be riding a bike on that track, and that track is so valuable and so important to the kids. Love to see that. Want to see kids kept busy at night, so that's a great one. And the only other thing is the dog park up at Dover and Dickinson. It is, there are literally thousands and thousands of people who bring their dog over the course of a year. It's just unbelievable. And I just really appreciate all the work that's done, but there are some fencing areas that are open, and it's tough when you take your dog through if you've got a dog that has a bit of a wandering eye. So I just want to bring that forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, I tend to agree with the comments of Councillor Hemmons. First of all, it was a very impressive report, and the amount of future planning and asset management that the city is involved with is always very impressive and almost overwhelming. I quite frankly don't have any suggestions, nor do I think that this is an appropriate time for councillors to put forward their own pet projects. I think what's identified in the report are things that have been talked about for some time and have been established as priorities, and I would like to see us certainly proceed with them. As Councillor to my right, Marino, that was her name, has indicated, there are some projects that we what's my name? Things like the RCMP building and the community center in the South End and so on, and they're major projects. And the walkway we've talked about for a long time. It had a lot of public support. I know it's a nice to have rather than a must have, and that always means it gets bumped down the list, but I understand that. But thanks again for identifying many of our main priorities, and I fully support this list. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, great report. We got a lot of stuff going on, and that's great. I'm loving it. I'm curious about some of the major capital projects and when the timing, because some of these are going to have to go to referendum, and I'm wondering about timing on some of them, like the RCMP detachment. It looks like we're not there yet. The waterfront walkway is another really popular thing and something that we would likely take to referendum at some point if that was what we were going to do. And so I'm just curious about about any of these projects that we might need to go to referendum on, and whether the timing for this upcoming election is going to fit for anything, or whether we're not in that stage yet.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Manley. So we had a good discussion over, I guess, the last number of months with Council about those major projects, and kind of, I think at the time we were calling it kind of Nanaimo Builds for the Future. We brought you a couple of reports, and where we landed was that we were proceeding this year and with Council support on the Public Works building, and that Council gave us funds both to pursue further study on the RCMP, but to take major steps forward on the South End Rec Center. So that work is underway. Staff have initiated the work on the South End Community Center. We've had some, as recent as last week, had some on-site meetings with neighborhood groups and hopefully some of the future stakeholders on that property. So the schedule is to come back in early, probably be spring of 2027, with a very detailed plan and cost estimate for the South End Community Center. And then at that time, we'd be looking for Council's direction on how you wish to proceed. Right now, as you've heard, the intention is long-term borrowing, but how we would pursue the approval of the electorate. We would be looking for that direction at that time. And once that's better understood, council gave us direction to then come back with, on the secondary projects, which were like the waterfront walkway, and we'd have a better understanding of what our long-term borrowing capacity was at that time, and council would, how council would want to proceed. On all of those initiatives, whether it be the RCMP, the South End Community Center, the waterfront walkway, the current plan is anticipating long-term borrowing as being the major funder for those. Of course, we always look for opportunities for grants, and there's, you know, we're hearing more references to opportunities from the federal government level for major infrastructure projects like this, but not a lot of detail at this point. But hopefully those will continue, and we'll be able to subsidize some of those projects with grants. But long-term borrowing is the plan.
Okay. And something like the waterfront walkway is a long-term kind of process with DFO and the planning and everything else. There's a lot of referrals related to that, SNAMO as well. Okay, thanks.
Sorry, and just on that, absolutely, Your Worship, that is correct. There has been a fair amount of work done on the walkway, the Departure Bay walkway, both looking at it just, you know, kind of the realities of the physical constraints down there, sea level rise, wave erosion. So there's been a lot of work done. So we do have, we're not starting from zero on that project for sure. And obviously a significant amount of engagement and public support we've heard for that project, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Lindsay. I appreciate your comments because the other councillors have raised some of the issues that I wanted to raise, and it's good for the public to hear and understand that just because it's not in the plan this morning, it's nonetheless the work is being done, because I think there is obviously incredible community desire, interest, and passion for the South End Community Centre. We know the RCMP detachment expansion is just a necessary thing. Bevan needs work, and obviously the waterfront walkway would be a singular achievement for this generation of Nanaimoites to finish that walkway, which would be a huge enhancement for tourism. And frankly, if I were living in the waterfront area of Solera, I'd be happy to see it built too, because it might preserve my house from sliding down the hill at some point. Having said that, if there's no further comments.
Your Worship, can staff just follow up? There was a comment from Councillor Perino about a couple of projects. I just want to provide some clarification on. You said the one was the BMX lights. I know that when the park was, the BMX park was recently updated, we put the conduit in and the basis for future lighting. And I just want to get you an answer about whether it's actually in the 5-year plan or not at this point, the actual lights.
Through the chair to Council Perino, the lights currently sit in 2031 of our 10-year project plan. But of course, you have to keep in mind too, 2031 is not completely fundable. We fully fund the first 5 years of the financial plan. In years 6 through 10, we're projecting what we need to spend. We're looking at our reserves, and then we prioritize as they move into the first 5 years of the plan. So it'll depend how that project gets prioritized in the next financial plan.
And we did have an estimated, high-level estimated budget, I think, on putting the lights in. Do we have that, the cost of the lights?
It's currently sitting in the plan at just over 900,000. Just over 900,000 was the current estimate in the current 10-year plan. And of course, that will be updated as part of the project plan development.
Sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just I know the members of the BMX executive and club members. They might be interested in doing some fundraising towards this. Just a thought, if we could do something on a combined, you know, to help to bring the project to fruition. If they could do some, I mean, they're the ones that actually got it going, and they're the ones that mentioned it to me. And I have seen, you know, you go by and the kids are there. So just a thought. Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Perino on
Ms.
that
Davis, sorry.
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Perino, we have worked with the BMX club to update their agreement so they're able to generate revenue through advertisement on that location, and we look forward to developing a project and how
That's great. That's great, yeah, because 2031 is a long ways away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kesselbrook.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. Just this project plan that was presented, this is basically all incorporated into the projected financial plan for that we just saw for the next 5 years. Like, this is all costed within that.
Through the chair to Council Gussebrick. So the 10-year project, the first 5 years of the project plan are fully funded in the financial plan, because we do have to present a balanced budget to council for your approval, and it has to be balanced in all 5 years. So 2026 to 2030 are fully funded. Then we ask staff, we do 10-year project planning so we can anticipate what we're going to need in reserves. We can also anticipate then if projects need to use borrowing, because we know what's coming at us in the plan. So staff do budget or do plan out projects for years 6 through 10, but years 6 through 10 of our project plan are not fully funded. The projects exceed the available funding that we have in reserves. That's why you'll see too, we talked about anticipated borrowing for the Vancouver Island Conference Center for renewals, because right now, unless we pushed out other projects, we wouldn't have sufficient funding in the reserves to do other projects prioritized, as well as those renewals at VICC. So each year, as part of the development of the project plan, we move things from year 6 into years 5, and we prioritize. We start looking at, okay, what has changed during the year? What priorities have changed? What is the condition of the asset? Can it wait another year? And there is a lot of project prioritization that staff do, because the projects far exceed the available funds that we have for moving projects forward.
No, I appreciate the presentation and the overview, and I think other than maybe exact timing of certain projects, but I think that's probably better addressed when we get closer. You know, this will come to budget for the stuff that's happening the upcoming year. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other speakers. We'll move on then to delegations. The first is Kim Smythe, President of the Nanaimo International Jazz Festival Association. Mr. Smythe, good morning, welcome. You're no stranger here. Just introduce yourself for the record, though, regardless, please.
Thank you very much. Name is Kim Smythe, 5291 Laguna Way, Nanaimo. Thank you. I'm here today as president of the Nanaimo International Jazz Festival Association, affectionately known as NIJFA. This nonprofit charitable org began in 2017, making this our 10th anniversary year. The annual September Festival has grown from a 3-day event to today's 3-weekend celebration, combining headliners with smaller acts in downtown pubs and clubs, plus our 2-day free outdoor stage in Maffeo Sutton Park. The festival has grown steadily year after year, and in 2023, the BC Touring Council named Nanaimo BC's Festival of the Year. This year, we're planning for up to 20 performances in downtown and Old City Quarter venues. Approximately half of the artists we hire would be categorized as local. We pay them all scale or market rates, and nobody volunteers to play other than at our jazz jams. Our technical support team is paid professional rates, and Nanaimo venues prosper from these 20 performances, of course. Nearly 3/4 of our annual budget is spent on local talent, in local venues, and with local businesses. Our mandate also includes community development, creating opportunities for local talent to flourish, adding variety to local culture, and presenting performing arts that make Nanaimo a more interesting and diverse place to be. For locals, we try to enrich the quality of life by adding layers to local culture. Another one of our mandates is education. We all grieved at the recent loss of post-secondary music education at VIU. And most of us are also very aware of the hard work of organizations like the Wellington Jazz Academy among music programs in SD 68 schools. We're also painfully aware of the declines in public music education. As a result, NIJFA has created a Salute to Music Education program this year. Thanks to new member Brian Stovall, who most of you would know, students will perform as opening acts and lobby and backup entertainment during the festival this year. And touring professionals contracted by NIJFA will then visit local schools and lead a variety of workshops as part of their contract with us this fall. Gives the kids, a wonderful experience in finding out what real working life is in the music world. The revenue side of our budget is largely based on grants and subsidies at this time. Last year, we undertook a far more business-like approach to the festival, and for the first time, saw nearly 1/4 of our revenue realized through ticket sales, doubling our earned income. Currently, 60% of our income comes from government grants, 15% from foundations and corporate sponsorships, with the remaining revenue from admissions. Public sector support is becoming more challenging, so creative fundraising, corporate partnerships, and building a more marketable product are the order of our day. In past years, the City of Nanaimo has generously provided nearly 1/3 of our total annual operating funds through the Cultural Operating Grant and Downtown Event Revitalization Fund. This city funding has also been the key to leveraging senior government grants. Provincial and federal funding through the BC Arts Council, Canada Council, Canada Heritage, and BC Gaming have been essential to our event, but their participation is contingent on the city's support for NISHFA. If we are not successful in securing local support, local government support, showing the community is behind us, we simply do not qualify for funding from senior levels of government. Unfortunately, NISHFA missed the city grant deadline last fall. It's always tight for us with a window closing on our events just a week after, or window closing on grant deadline here, just a week after our event concludes. This year, the board member responsible for our grants was suddenly sidelined right at deadline time. We had hoped for a pathway through to a late application, but rules are rules, and NISHFA was declined. Without local support, there is no government support, meaning the cancellation of this year's event. This would significantly handicap plans to grow towards a different business model and hamper board development vital to building a future model focused on more significant corporate support, creative fundraising, and earned income that puts us into a different category. I'm here to request that Council consider emergency funding of $40,000 to replace what we're missing from our previous year's grant funding. NISHFA has always acted in good faith in managing grant funding, has demonstrated significant fiscal responsibility over the past 10 years, and has benefited the community broadly while doing so. Our AGM is coming up this Saturday, and I'd love to bring any of your thoughts and ideas to our new board. Right now, I'm happy to answer any of your questions, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smythe. Questions? Councillor Perino, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question through you to Mr. Smythe. I'm sorry, you may have said it. How many people do you think attend the whole 3-week event?
It's so hard to tell. Of course, we know from our ticketed events and from our events in venues, but something like Maffeo Sutton Park, where you have people coming for the actual event and then people just strolling through and stopping and spending a little bit of time there. But for the sake of budgeting and grant applications, we're estimating that we grew the festival by moving it to Maffeo Sutton Park from Wesley Street. We grew that outdoor component audience by about 25% instantly in our first year. So we're talking numbers above 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm just curious about the economic generator from this. Do you have any idea of how many people from out of town are buying tickets, or are you working with the tourism board to cross-pollinate on bringing people from out of town for this?
Last year was the first year that we worked significantly with tourism, and we had a wonderful partnership going with them. They had a partnership with an organization out of Vancouver that sent people to all of the events and did a whole lot of sort of, well, the work of influencers, essentially. And so we saw our numbers go up there, and I can only anecdotally speak to the number of out-of-towners, but we know that we get a lot of attendance from Courtenay, from Powell River, North Island, and folks up from Victoria as well, where they have a significant jazz audience. We're now part of the Coastal Jazz, or becoming part this year of the Coastal Jazz Society, which includes the Vancouver Festival, Victoria Festival, and now the Nanaimo Festival. So we'll benefit from that in terms of being able to bring artists here for cheaper, for those who are non-locals, but also to attract that jazz fan base from Vancouver and Victoria, which we know are very mobile because a lot of them are seniors as well, or getting more towards our age. And they're able to travel, and they're able to pursue, what they like to do, what honors their lifestyle.
And your festival is a little bit off from the kind of the circuit, the Western Circuit, Winnipeg through to Victoria. I think a lot of that happens in June and early July. Are you still able to benefit from from that synergy between those other festivals with touring acts?
We're not able to benefit as much, like in terms of block booking and sharing travel costs with Victoria and Vancouver for A-list artists that might come here. Mind you, we have a hard time budgeting for an A-list artist like Vancouver, Victoria does.
Yep.
But we're able to also participate in that whole planning process, which makes us more aware of who is going to be available in the fall, who's touring the West Coast in the fall, who's coming to Canada, although we are focused on mostly doing Canadian artists. We did all Canadian artists last year. We would be doing all Canadian artists this year as well. But the funny thing is that our venues in Nanaimo are terribly taxed in the springtime, and especially the Port Theatre. The month of June is pretty much wiped out. So we couldn't get some venues, we couldn't get some of the tech talent that we need because we want to produce first quality professional shows. You know, it's not going to be me on the soundboard. So.
Oh, that's great. You know, I appreciate that you said 75% of the acts are local or from this region.
Yeah, and we have a bit of a disagreement with Victoria and Ottawa when we're applying for grants there, because they say, well, when we mean local, we mean within 50 kilometers of your community. And I said, that's not the way it works, because I've got several bands where I'll have one member in Nanaimo, one member on Gabriola, one member in Duncan, two in Victoria, and one in Powell River. And so my argument is that's local, because the guys are all part of one band that tour together, play together, perform together. Yeah. And they scratch their head in Ottawa. Of course, they don't even know where Vancouver Island is most of the time. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastermere, please.
Thank you. Through you, thank you for the presentation. Definitely a fan of the festival. I just wanted to ask a clarification. You said that there is provincial and federal funding that is contingent on you also receiving funding from the city. Did I hear that right?
It's contingent on first receiving funding from the city.
So if council, if there was a way to fund the $40,000 ask for this year, have you missed the opportunity to get provincial and federal funding for this year's festival?
I do a lot of tap dancing. So my grant counselors in Ottawa with Heritage Canada, for instance, are sort of saying, well, what can you provide us that indicates that they will be funding you, or that they are favorable to considering funding you? And so we have this discussion about considering favoring funding you. And you know, I recently received a letter of support. And so I sort of trolled that out there to say, the next step is we will hear whether or not we're going to receive financial support. So here's this for this week, and then come back in a couple of weeks. The provincial funding, a part of that has already been awarded to us, but part of it is waiting on hearing what's going to happen here. Our federal funding, like I say, I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, these are both funding streams that we've been in for 10 years, 9 years. So we haven't done anything wrong. We've done everything right with those funders, and we're growing the festival in the right direction, and they're pleased with what we're doing. That's just the way it goes. If they don't love you at home, don't knock on our door.
Okay, and the letter of support, that was the letter of support that our council provided. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So there's some provincial funding that has come through, and then some that is seemingly contingent on getting funding from the city, and it's a question mark on the federal funding.
It's a question mark on the provincial funding as well, and the funding that has come through, I may send that back. I will be asked to send it back, and so we leave those funds in a restricted account, ready to go back to Victoria.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Smythe?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Let me just comment, Council, that we have two delegations this morning, although I don't see the second one here. Both events are, how shall I say, well recognized in this community and important. I can't imagine passing a year without the Jazz Festival or the Bathtub Weekend. So I'm looking to staff here. Mr. Smythe's been quite candid about the reasons for missing the application deadline. Is there a source of funding that is reasonable for council to tap into to provide the $40,000? Ms. Mercer, please.
Your Worship, funding could come from the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve, as there is sufficient money in there to fund those.
I would be delighted if a member of council would make that motion. Councillor Manley.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that motion. I think this is a fantastic festival, and yeah, free events, free concerts in our park, free concerts on Wesley Street. I thought that was fantastic when the event was on Wesley Street, and it's just as fantastic down in Maffeo Sutton. And you know, just based on the information that we've received, I think it's very worthwhile for us to fund this festival. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Perino seconded.
And thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say I'm very familiar with this festival here, but also in the Okanagan. It was a huge event. And I just think we need to continue to grow this. I'm so glad that Mr. Smythe does this on a yearly basis and keep going. I'm thrilled to support this and hope we all agree to it. And I hope the provincial and the federal government come forward with their funds as well. Thank you.
I don't, Councillor Eastmere, sorry. Councillor Thorpe, sorry, in order.
So the motion's on the floor, Your
Yes.
Worship? Thank you. I will speak briefly to it. We have rules, we have deadlines, and I'm not a big fan of breaking those rules and making exceptions, because then where do you stop? But in this case, I'm not bothered by making an exception, because this jazz festival is such an integral part of our cultural fabric here in Nanaimo, and to not support it, I think, would be really irresponsible. So if the money is available, I would support absolutely making an exception and approving the grant. I want to thank Mr. Smythe for all his hard work on our behalf, because he is benefiting the city through this. And I might add, Your Worship, I think the same argument could apply to the Bathtub Society as well. I don't know the circumstances there, but to imagine not supporting that event, I'm being premature here, I think also would be just inconceivable. So happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I'm glad that this came forward today. I know that it's really tough for festivals constantly having to rely on grant funding for things like this, and it's a challenge for so many trying to deal with all the deadlines and have an annual festival, but no promise of annual support for that. So I recognize that that's a real challenge with the way that we do things, but it's sort of a problem with the system more broadly. I recognize, like, taking money out of the strategic infrastructure reserve, like, it might not at first blush seem like strategic infrastructure, but it is strategic cultural infrastructure for sure, and has a, you know, wide-ranging impacts in Nanaimo. I do hope that we can find ways to help festivals become a little bit more self-sustaining, but I certainly recognize the city's role in supporting this, and like even seeing the offshoots and all the benefits of a festival that happened just this last weekend, Sunk City, just seeing how many people were downtown and how many artisans were having a great time selling their wares. Like, there's so many little side things that benefit from this. So yeah, I am happy to support, and I am sorry it's been a tricky process to get to this point, and I certainly hope that the province and the federal government come through with their pieces as well to help this be a success.
Thank you. Mr. Smythe struck the right chord with me, of course, when he talked about the history of music in this community. There was a time when the school district was renowned for its music program, and I appreciate that it's faced challenging times, but the community that produced Diana Krall and Ingrid Jensen and Alison Crow and others, and candidly, speaking as someone who's been around here a while, I can't imagine running into Fred Levisota's widow Doris anywhere in the streets of Nanaimo and saying, oh, by the way, we didn't fund the jazz festival this year, or saying that to their daughter Carmela. But the whole concept chills me to the bone, so I'm going to happily support this, and I'm glad council appears to be of the same mind. This is the right thing to do, but next year, rules is rules. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Keeping in mind that this has to be approved at the next council meeting. This is just a Finance and Audit Committee meeting, but I would hope that things will go well. The next delegation is Greg Peacock, President / Commodore, Loyal Nanaimo Bathtub Society, and that's coming in via Zoom. Mr. Peacock,
yes,
are
hello.
you there this morning?
Yes, I am. Yeah, hi.
Good morning and welcome.
Good
You'll
morning.
have 5 minutes, of course, and if there's a minute, when there's a minute left, I will announce that and let you wrap up. Welcome. Just introduce yourself for the record and smooth sailing.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Apologies for not being present at today's meeting, but I haven't been feeling well for the last couple of days and felt it was more appropriate for me to participate virtually. My name is Greg Peacock. I'm the current Commodore and President of the Loyal Nanaimo Bathtub Society. I'm here today, similar to Mr. Smythe, to ask for assistance with a missed grant application deadline last fall. Both are Heritage and Culture and DERF grants. As the filer of these applications, I experienced considerable technical and time challenges, and then with considerable help from Deb Beck, who's an angel, by the way, we were made aware that our applications were not received, but we weren't aware of that until after the deadline had passed. So after conversations with Mayor Krogh, Darcy Osborne, and Deb Beck, it was suggested I speak to this committee and ask for forgiveness and see if it's possible to access funds to assist with this year's Marine Festival and Bathtub Weekend and operations. Last year we received $14,300 from DERF and $9,652 from the Heritage and Culture grant. With the stability provided by last year's grants, we've successfully focused efforts on some much needed maintenance on the big tub and trailer, refurbished our finish line and stage. The historic paddle wheel tubs have been repaired and are ready for action this summer. As importantly, we were able to focus efforts on improving safety and awareness of the Great International World Championship Bathtub Race with the addition of GPS tracking devices on all participants. We had enhanced video coverage of the race with a large screen down at the finish line that showed the progress of all the racers on the screen from the GPS devices. As importantly, with a sponsorship from UA 170, a union that has participates in the race, we actually streamed the entire race live on YouTube. At last check, we had about 3,000 or a little bit more viewers of that stream. Although we've not subscribed to the Tourism Nanaimo Impact Assessment Solutions available because of cost, it's our understanding that the extensive marketing and participation in most parades, considerable media coverage leading up to and including Bathtub Weekend, have had a substantial impact on downtown, at our hotels, at local restaurants, and the revitalized downtown core. The kind designation of municipally significant event status provided by the city and sponsorship from the Tom Harris Community Foundation, we once again were able to help raise funds for the Nanaimo District Hospital Foundation, which we intend to do again this year. At the time of this report, we believe the foundation raised at Bathtub Weekend close to $8,000. The municipally significant event status allows us to charge more money for alcoholic beverages. Those funds are used to enhance safety and security of the park throughout the weekend and, of course, for the race. Last year's Sail Past on Wheels Fun Parade was one of our most attended in many years. One of the biggest challenges, financial and otherwise, is the traffic control requirements for our parade and the entrance and access to Maffeo Sutton Park for the 3 days of Bathtub Weekend. We are currently working with a local traffic control solution that's preparing the documentation and permits required municipally and provincially. Last year's original quote for traffic control alone for Bathtub Weekend was just over $11,000. So far this year, I've been able to acquire a small parade sponsorship from WorkSafe BC to assist with this cost, but it's nowhere near the cost required. Again, much more is needed, and this iconic parade has been part of Bathtub Weekend since 1957. We continue to maintain the world's biggest bathtub and participate in every parade we can find on the island and in the Lower Mainland. For example, in August, we may be traveling to White Rock to participate in White Rock Days. As importantly, we participate in all parades that take place by the Victoria Festival Society, Christmas Parade, and just recently we participated in the May Parade as well. We also do Canada Day up in Parksville and any other parades that anybody wants the big bathtub to participate in. We get considerable help from the Navy League cadets in both Victoria and Nanaimo, and as importantly, from local sports teams, as we include their mascots to ride on the big tub and or drive our little go-kart throughout the parade.
1 minute, Mr. Peacock.
A recent email from City Manager and Fleet Operations Brandon Miller has pointed out that the city is doing considerable work on the public works yard. We've had a tent in there for long before I came around, that hosts the big tub, our original big tub, our stage, and the Silly Boat Regattas Child Development Center stage, and then a number of other parts like our go-kart and the paddle wheel tubs. As you know, there's work going on at Public Works, and they've asked us to find a new place. We have to try and do that by the end of August, as that's what their plan is to have the yard cleaned up by then so they can start construction. That's a considerable time challenge for me, and I intend to do it. We're working to find a place right now. I've been talking with Michelle Kasurik from Child Development Center to get that done. Although it's not part of this discussion for today, I felt it was relevant to bring this up.
Mr. Peacock, if you could wrap up, and
yeah,
sure there's an ask coming.
Yeah, there is. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm asking for, similar to Mr. Smythe. We could get consideration to even match the grant funding, although I did ask for more in the application that was put forward. If we could match the DERF and Heritage and Culture funding that we got last year, that would be a huge help, so we can focus on these other challenges that we have, like the traffic control, and now, of course, the moving of all of our stuff. As you know, we've got two huge
Thank you. And what's the amount? Somebody's
14,300 plus about 10,000, so it's about $25,000.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Peacock? Not seeing any. Thank you for your time this morning and presenting to council. Much appreciated. Councillor Manley.
I'm happy to move this one as well.
And seconded Councillor Perino. Discussion.
This is, I was going to ask Mr. Peacock, did he say 1954 this thing started?
1967.
67, okay. So I remember when my parents were at UBC and I lived in student housing, we would go down to the beach at Point Grey Park or Kitsilano and watch these yahoos show up in bathtubs. It's something, this is an iconic Nanaimo race. And so I understand, you know, both of these societies have had some difficulty with people who are responsible for getting the grants in. And I do agree with Councillor Thorpe about these exceptions, and but I'm willing to make an exception this time again because this is a iconic Nanaimo event, and so I'm happy to support this request, and with the caveat that they get their grants in on time next year. Thanks.
If I could, I want to thank you very much for those kind words. I, as the Commodore and the individual filer of this, take full responsibility for not getting these in on time. There's no one else in our organization that could be responsible for that. I was just so busy last summer with I'm with the VI Raiders, with bathtubs, with
Peacock,
the snowbirds, and 55 plus.
You're given absolution for this year, as is Mr. Smythe. Don't worry about it. Councillor,
it's all good. Thanks so much.
I just wanted to say at our Rotary meeting, we sing "O Canada" at the beginning of every meeting, and there's this huge display of events all across Canada, and of course, the bathtub race is part of the show. I have never watched anything so crazy in my entire life, and love every second of it. So thrilled that you're doing this, Mr. Peacock, and you know, from everyone around this region, just thank you for continuing with this. It's an important part of our history and our present and our future.
And it makes us look like a fun town.
Sure does.
Councillor Thurp.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I won't belabor this. I agree with the comments that have already been made, and I thank Mr. Peacock for his years of dedicated work for this event, which really does put Nanaimo on the map year after year, and it is, the word has been used, iconic it is, and does probably as much for tourism as any other event that I can think of. And that's the only comment I would make, Mr. Peacock, is that because if I heard you correctly, you haven't worked closely with the tourism board to this point, and if that is the case, I would urge you and encourage you to do so in future, because we have a very active board of tourism now, and I know that they would look favorably upon your involvement.
Yes, Councillor Thorpe, it is on my radar for sure. We were, in the past, we tried to deal with the Nanaimo Hospitality Association, but we couldn't get rooms in the summer because it was so busy, and we fell outside of that. But my understanding now is that tourism's taking over that fund as well, and we have more hotel rooms, so I'm hoping to access that for next year.
Yes, you're correct. So good for you, and I encourage you to pursue that. In the meantime, I am also happy to make the exception for this and to support the grant. And again, thank you for your work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mercy is a wonderful quality. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Peacock. Next item is reports. Before we jump into that, though, I do want to point out something that was brought to my attention during the break. This is Darcy Osborne's last appearance before the Finance and Audit Committee. Not her last appearance before Council, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't point that out. And for her, perhaps a somewhat more emotional moment. She's been here a lot longer than I have. But nevertheless, an emotional moment, and there'll be other opportunities to express the very sincere gratitude of Council and all of those who've had the pleasure of working with you over these many years. I am, of course, terribly disappointed that both you and your husband have chosen to leave public service at the same time, but that's my personal feelings, and I'm entitled to them as you are entitled to your retirement. Thank you. Next item is reports. The first is Community Resiliency Investment Program, Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Program. Ms. Bhopal Singh, you're going to introduce that, please.
Good morning, Your Worship, or good afternoon now. The report you have before you is put forward by our fire department or fire safety. I'm going to turn over for more of the description to our chief here, or
are you having a Thorpian moment this morning?
I am. I'm actually having a Miss Osborne moment as I take in and absorb my words, which you've covered for her on her last meeting today. So thank you.
Thank
Over
you.
to you, Sue.
Your Worship, members of Council, I'm here this morning to gain support for the City's application to the 2026 UBCM Community Resilience Investment Program. The Community Resilience Investment, or Fire Smart Grant as it's known, is intended to reduce the risk of wildfires and mitigate their impacts on communities. The City has received grant money since the program's inception in 2018. And just a note, this year, the application process changed this year, and so applications were due April 30th. So the City has already applied for this grant, but we require a council resolution supporting the application in order to move it forward. I won't speak too much on wildfire risk because I'm sure you're all very aware of the impacts of changing climate that the drought conditions on Vancouver Island have on our wildfire risk. This was certainly illustrated by the Mount Underwood fire last year just west of Port Alberni, in which fire conditions which have never been seen on the island were witnessed there in terms of the intensity and fire growth. The City of Nanaimo is considered a low with pockets of moderate wildfire risk, according to our 2025 Community Wildfire Resilience Plan. So again, we do have a wildfire risk. It's not as severe as some areas, but it's only going to increase in the future. In 2025, the CRI grant was used to fund multiple programs, including facilitating fire smart neighborhood programs in Long Lake Heights and on Protection Island, supporting staff training through the BC Wildfire Resilience and Training Summit, funding the purchase and equipping of a structural protection unit trailer, completion of our new Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan, development of a wildfire training exercise, which we held just 2 weeks ago with our mutual aid partners, and also the training of 3 wildfire mitigation specialists on staff now. The 2026 grant will continue to support these initiatives listed above, such as staff education, supporting neighborhood programs, additional sprinkler protection unit equipment, and an expanded wildfire exercise that we hope to hold next year. And in addition, and most importantly, we'll fund a contract position for a Fire Smart coordinator. And this is something that we haven't had in the past. This function's been, it's been undertaken by myself and other chief officers. And we can maintain the level that we're at as is, but I think to really provide some outreach and more education to the citizens of Nanaimo and to grow this program, we really need someone that is focused on doing that. Just regarding the application process, we probably won't know until the end of August, early September, on whether we're successful for this grant. The timing is really odd because we don't find out about the grant until after the wildfire season's over. So we did have some funding from 2025 that we used to complete our spring 2026 programs, such as our weekend on Protection Island. So this funding will support, again, a Protection Island cleanup in the fall, and then it will go into 2027 as well. So in terms of a wildfire or a fire smart coordinator, that would probably be hired in the spring of 2027. So staff's recommendation is that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend that Council support the City of Nanaimo's application to the UBCM for the Community Resilience Investment Program and endorse the City of Nanaimo's role in overall grant management. And the total grant request is $144,445.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a very quick question. The way this report reads, the city has submitted an application for this grant, and the application requires a council resolution to proceed. No problem there. I'm just wondering, does that mean that we've sort of crossed the first step?
The UBCM has the report now, yes. So again, they take 120 days, so we don't anticipate an answer until sort of the end of the summer.
Okay.
But we've met all the other steps. It's been reviewed by BC Wildfire before we submitted.
Okay.
I'm in the process of completing the final report from last year's grant. So
Okay.
yeah, everything, we're not late or anything. Everything is in order, and they know that hopefully a council endorsement is coming.
Okay, thank you. And
I believe Councillor Perino just moved the motion.
I would like to move the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Manley, discussion on this? Not seeing any. Thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is the 2026 Anemic Days Sport Tournament Grant. Ms. Bopal Singh.
Through your worship's council, apologies for my blip and apologies to Deputy Chief Whiting. I was expecting to see Chief Doyle and I certainly yapped.
Ms. Osborne.
So with this report, I actually, over to you, Ms. Osborne. Thank you.
Good morning again, Your Worship and Council, and thank you for the very kind words. It truly has been an amazing experience working for the City of Nanaimo, so thank you very much. Now I'll try to stay focused. The purpose of the report before you is for the City of Nanaimo to support the 2026 Sunimu Days to be hosted by Sunimu First Nation in Nanaimo, July 24th through 26th. The event comprises of a competition in water sports, basketball, soccer, bone games, and as well as marketplace, kid zones, and a cultural night. The event has been held for over 50 years and is over the course of 3 days. There is more than 2,500 youth and adults competing combined. The soccer tournament portion of the event is held at the Harewood Turf Fields East and West, Merle Logan, and the second artificial turf, as well as Quinnistook Fields. The total cost for that venue is $4,200, and with custodial equals $4,700. The sport tournament grant is designed to provide financial assistance to organizations that are hosting sport tournaments, specifically those that utilize the city facilities, and the qualifying events that are hosted by local organizations that have a direct economic impact with priority given to the multi-day events. The city's role as a partner in hosting and assisting in the planning for this special event reflects the city's commitment to reconciliation. It also aligns with direction in the city plan to support community events that promote community health, well-being, cross-cultural connection, and while strengthening the resilience and pride of our First Nation youth. The recommendation is that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend that Council approve allocating up to $5,000 from the 2026 Sport Tournament Grant Fund to be used towards the costs associated with the 2026 Sunimu Days, including the field rentals and custodial costs. And I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you very much. Someone, Councillor Eastmere, move the recommended motion.
Yes, thank you.
And seconded, Councillor Hemmons.
Yeah, great event. Very happy to support. I think there's probably no question that this is a slam dunk. So thank you.
I don't think we'll be in for a hot debate here. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to support this, and I would just, for the public, say that this is a great event to attend, and I've been going to the canoe races for years. It's amazing to watch young kids in dugout canoes and people of all ages actually racing the large canoes. It's a very welcoming place to be down on the town reserve, and so it's a great event overall, so I encourage people to attend. Thanks.
Thank you very much. All those in favor and any opposed, none, motion carries. The next is the 2026 Community Watershed Restoration Grants. Ms. Vopal Singh, please.
Good morning again, Your Worship. I'm going to pass this off to Ms. Davis. What I will say is these watershed restoration grants that Council has supported in the last few years really support many small neighborhood community development type projects, and so have been quite successful in their collaboration with staff. So over to Ms. Davis. Thank you.
I don't wish to deny Ms. Davis the opportunity to speak, but is there any controversy around this? Someone care to move the recommended motion? Councillor Eastmere, Councillor Thorpe seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? Ms. Davis, sorry to steal your moment in the sun, but you've had a little bit this morning. Thank you very much. The next is D, consideration of use of Knowles estate funds to cover unfunded projects from the Community Environmental Sustainability Project Grant. Ms. Vopal Singh, please.
Through Your Worship to Council, this is staff returning with some options for funding for a very specific legacy fund that Council asked to be considered for some grants that we were oversubscribed on. So I'll let Ms. Davis explain the history of this legacy funding, the limits and opportunities with which we can use the fund, and you have some recommendations for diverting some of those funds for two neighborhood projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Ms. Bhopal Singh. We were asked to provide an update on the criteria for accessing the Knowles Reserve and to review the potential to apply those funds to two unsuccessful applicants to the Community Environmental Sustainability Project grant. Those two projects were the Harewood Neighbourhood Association's Georgia Greenway project and also the South End Community Association's Greening the Burt project. So I'll first get into the Knowles Estate. The Knowles Estate Reserve Fund was established through a bylaw in 2007, and it is a bylaw following a bequest of $488,000 from the estate of the late Mr. Arthur Knowles to the city. There are some strict terms within the bylaw, and to sum them up, the Knowles Reserve can be used for improvements to South End parks and South End sports facilities, and also to provide equipment and program supplies related to South End sports, youth sports activities. So it's for parks or youth sports activities in the South End. So we did undertake a review of those two unsuccessful programs, and one of them is eligible for funding for the Knowles Reserve, and that is the Harewood Neighbourhood Association's Georgia Greenway project, because it takes place in a park. The South End project is not in a park, and nor is it related to sporting improvements, so it does not meet the terms of the bylaw. So with respect, however, to the Harewood Neighbourhood Association one, they can move forward. And so the recommendation today is that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend to allocate funds from the Knowles Reserve to that project. In addition to that, staff have also identified some other opportunities with the Knowles Reserve in the South End area, and that relates to the area near the Harewood Old School Field. So there are opportunities there to do some pop-up improvements, to utilise the Knowles Reserve to make some improvements to the parkland for youth in the South End. And I think that is where I will leave it.
Thank you very much. In order, Councillors Hemmons and Eastmere.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Davis, for the report. I'm happy to support the recommendation, although I'm curious, given the language, was this project viable? Like, I don't want to say we have another pot of pot of funding, let's give it to them, but the project itself isn't viable, and I'm saying it wasn't recommended for concerns regarding planting feasibility and level of detail provided in public art component. However, staff are willing to go back and work with them. So I want to make sure if we support this, it's not that we're advantaging a group that didn't create a comprehensive proposal, but that we have a funding opportunity and staff have the capacity to do a little bit of work to help it get to that place. Am I accurate?
Through the chair to Councillor Hammonds, yeah, we do feel that with a little bit of work we can get them to a great project. So it's about the right plant selection, the right location, staff support, and some planning, and this can be an improvement to Harewood Centennial Park.
Wonderful. I'm really excited to hear that. One other question. Did we consider using this funding for the resurfacing of the basketball court at Deverell Square, which I must say is an amazing asset for the neighborhood. Every day I pass it multiple times and it's packed. So this would have been completely applicable, which would have freed up assets in our Parks, Rec, and Culture budget. So do we look to this fund to...
Ms. Bopelson.
Through the chair, I'm going to pass this back to Ms. Davis on this specific example. Thank you.
So to answer this one, from the park's perspective, we do consider the financing of projects in terms of the source funds is largely handled by finance. However, we were aware of this fund, but the amount of the available funds, were this to be attributed to that project, it would have been entirely drained down. So we were able to plan for that project using other capital funds and leave that reserve in place for other opportunities such as these that have arisen in the Harewood area.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate that looking at the bylaw, we then saw new improvements or new opportunities at Harewood School, and I think I can see you, Leonard, and I appreciate got eyes on the back of my head. I'm a mom. I would appreciate, yeah, he does it in public now. I would appreciate, I think, if we're looking at South End improvements, we know we have this fund available. That would be great for even if we drain it, that's okay, because that's what it's for. So just a future thought. Thank you.
Through the chair, just to follow up on that one, we do absolutely intend to utilise it for its best use. Yes, we always have it in our back pocket, and that's what we're doing with this opportunity now.
Councillor Eastmere, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think my questions were covered by Councillor Hammonds, so I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that like the South End Community Association's looped in on this, and like maybe there's opportunities that have been missed because we weren't aware that this fund existed or the ways that we could use it. And so I am happy to see the Harewood Neighborhood Association getting support for the Greenway project. I think it's a great one, but yeah, I think there's lots of little things in the South End Community Association area that could potentially benefit from a little boost like this. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Yeah, quickly, through your worship, if I may. Yeah, thanks for the report, and thanks to Councillor Hammonds, who I think initiated the request to bring forward information on this rather unique funding source that we have in the city, the Knowles Estate, and strict criteria for its use, which I understand. And I can only recall one other successful application, which was for equipment for the John Barsby football program several years ago. So it has very limited criteria, but it's still a good little pot of money to be aware of, and I think this is an appropriate use for it, so I'll certainly support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to support this, and I appreciate the amount of work staff has put into it, because as most of council knows, I drew Mr. Knowles' will. He was my client. He loved this city. He very much loved the South End, where he was raised and lived with his family, and yes, Councillor Manley, I'm getting there. And it's nice to see the benefit, but I'm not going to encourage that the fund be spent that quickly. I think his hope was that over long periods of time it would provide benefits to the community, and frankly it shouldn't be used to fulfill projects that are quite frankly rightly the city's, but certainly to enhance and provide those extras would be wonderful. All those in favor? And all those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're on to Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning Funding Stream. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is just to advise you that we have applied for this grant. It's for 100% funding up to $40,000, and we should know in about 3 months if we're successful with the grant, and at that time we would update the financial plan if we were successful. So we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lloyd, welcome. Any questions? Councillor Prino?
Thank you, Your Worship. But just a very quick question. If we don't get the money, we're not moving forward with the plan?
Through the chair to the Councillor Perino, that's a great question, actually, something staff have not yet considered. But yeah, I think that planning for this project is contingent on grant funding, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Councillor Manley?
Thank you. And just following up on that, I hope if you don't get the funding for this, you find the funding elsewhere, just based on actually reading John Valiant's book Fire Weather about the fire in Fort Mac and what happens when a WUI, wildfire, urban interface fire hits a community, how fast it moves and how difficult it is to get people out of that community. It's astounding what happened in Fort Mac. And so planning for those kind of things, when you think about what the exits are from this community, there aren't very many of them when it comes down to it in a huge fire. So good luck with the grant.
Yeah, if I may, I just would like to say to the councillor through the chair that I am confident that the city has the capability to evacuate areas as needed in emergency situations. I think the purpose of this grant would be to, create more detailed plans. It'll allow us to have plans that we can put into our emergency response plan for the city, the citywide emergency response plan, which is coming into regulation through the provincial legislation on January 1st, 2027. And it will also give us a basis to more greatly engage with community members and associations on what those plans are and provide details to community members so they can plan ahead appropriately.
Thank you very much. Much appreciate the report. No other business? Motion to adjourn? Sorry, yes. No, we don't. It's a report.
It's just
It's a report. Quick. Thank you. Yes. And there's our seconder. Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much.